Imagine waking up in a country where you can be arrested without knowing the law you broke. Your land can be taken without explanation. Your life can be destroyed because a powerful man simply decided so. No court, no appeal, no written law, just power. This was not a dictatorship. This was Rome. The same men who built Rome, the same men who fought Rome's wars, the same men who died for Rome's glory, had no voice in how Rome was ruled. They were called the plebeians, the majority, the backbone, the expendable. Then one day, they did something no government expected. They didn't riot. They didn't burn the city. They didn't assassinate leaders. They simply walked away. They left Rome defenseless, leaderless, powerless, terrified, because suddenly the elite realized a state without its people is not a state at all. What followed was not a violent revolution. It was something far more dangerous, a revolution of laws, a 200-year political chess match between the rich and the many, between secrecy and justice, between domination and citizenship. This is the story of how ordinary citizens forced the greatest republic in history to rewrite itself. This is the bloodless revolution. To understand the anger of the plebeians, we must understand the system that oppressed them. Three powerful forces kept the patricians in control. Pillar 1, legal opacity. In early Rome, laws were not written down. They existed only in the memories of patrician priests called the pontifices. Imagine standing before a judge accused of breaking a law. But no one will tell you what that law is. The patrician judges could simply declare, "You have violated tradition," and that was enough. Justice was not a system, it was a secret weapon. Pillar 2, official arbitrariness. Rome was governed by 2 consuls. Each year they were granted imperium, supreme authority. This power included commanding the army, enforcing law, punishing citizens. But there was a problem. There were no written limits on how this power could be used. A consul could imprison a citizen, seize property, order punishment, all based on his personal judgment. Historians describe this as unfettered caprice. In other words, the law depended on who was in charge that day. Pillar 3, economic domination. Rome constantly expanded through war. Each conquest created new territory known as ager. Publicus, public land. But this land rarely went to the soldiers who fought the battles. Instead, patrician elites claimed most of it. Plebeians returned from war to discover their farms destroyed, their debts rising, their land taken. The very people defending Rome were being pushed into poverty. The tension was reaching a breaking point, and in 494 BC, something extraordinary happened. The plebeians did something that shocked the Roman elite. They walked out, not as rioters, not as rebels, but as soldiers refusing to defend a state that refused to protect them. Thousands of plebeian citizens marched out of Rome and camped on a nearby hill known as the Sacred Mount. This act became known as the Secessio Plebis, a secession of the plebs. Rome suddenly faced a terrifying reality: without plebeians, Rome had no army, no farmers, no labor force. The republic would collapse. The patricians had no choice. They negotiated, and the plebeians demanded something revolutionary: not land, not money, but political protection. Out of the secession came one of the most unique offices in political history, the tribune of the plebs. At first there were only 2 tribunes. Later there would be 10. Their job was simple but powerful: defend the plebeians against patrician abuse. They could physically stand between a magistrate and a citizen and declare, "Veto. I forbid it," and the action would stop. The power of sacrosanctity. But how could tribunes challenge powerful Roman officials without being killed? The plebeians created a remarkable solution. They swore a sacred oath called the lex sacrata. This oath declared, anyone who harmed a tribune would become sacer, cursed, outlawed. Any citizen could legally kill that person. This made tribunes sacrosanct, untouchable. For the first time, the plebeians had political defenders inside the system, but the struggle was only beginning. The next major demand from the plebeians was simple: write the laws down. For decades the patricians resisted. Written laws meant limits on their power. Finally, around 450 BC, Rome created a special commission, the Decemviri, 10 men tasked with writing Rome's first legal code, the birth of Roman law. These laws were engraved onto bronze tablets and displayed in the Roman Forum. They became known as the 12 Tables. For the first time, citizens knew the laws. Judges had limits. Rights were visible. A plebeian could now point to the tablet and say, "The law says you cannot do that." It was the beginning of constitutional government. But the Decemviri soon revealed how fragile freedom could be. The crisis of the Decemviri, the commissioners refused to step down after finishing their task. Power had corrupted them. They ruled like dictators. One infamous story tells of a powerful Decemvir who attempted to enslave a plebeian girl. Her father killed her to protect her freedom. Rome erupted in outrage. Another secession followed. The Decemviri were overthrown, and the Republic was restored. But this time, the plebeians demanded stronger protections. In 449 BC, two consuls sympathetic to the plebeian cause were elected, Lucius Valerius Potitus, Marcus Horatius Barbatus. Together they passed 3 revolutionary laws. Kecap won the power of the plebiscite, decisions made by the Concilium Plebis. The plebeian assembly gained legal force. This meant ordinary citizens were now participating in lawmaking. The aristocracy no longer controlled legislation completely. Kecap II Provocatio, the right of appeal. This was a direct attack on the power of magistrates. If a Roman official attempted to punish a citizen, that citizen could shout, "Provoco." This meant, "I appeal to the Roman people." The case would then be judged by the public assembly. It was an early form of due process. Kecap III, the creation of aediles. 2 new officials were created to assist the tribunes. These were the aediles. They managed plebeian archives, temple records, legal documents. Why? Because patricians had previously lost records proving plebeian rights. The plebs were making sure that never happened again. Political rights were expanding, but one barrier still remained: marriage. Patricians and plebeians were forbidden from marrying each other. This law preserved the aristocratic bloodline. In 445 BC, the tribune Gaius Canuleius challenged this rule. His law, Lex Canulia, legalized intermarriage. This was not just about romance. It allowed wealthy plebeians to enter the Roman aristocracy. The patrician monopoly on status was beginning to crack. The next demand from plebeians was clear: access to the highest office in Rome, the consulship. The patricians resisted fiercely, so they invented a political compromise. They replaced consuls with a new office, military tribunes with consular power. These officials had the authority of consuls but not the prestige. Plebeians were allowed to hold this position. It was a clever political maneuver. The patricians protected their title, while plebeians gained experience in leadership. The final stage of this struggle came with two tribunes, Gaius Licinius Stolo, Lucius Sextius Lateranus. In 376 BC, they proposed radical reforms. Their laws limited the amount of public land a patrician could control. The goal was simple: ensure that ordinary Roman soldiers also benefited from Rome's conquests. These reforms eventually forced the patricians to accept a major change. Plebeians could finally become consuls. The highest office in Rome was now open to all citizens. The conflict of the orders lasted nearly 200 years, but it never became a full civil war. Instead, Rome evolved through protest, negotiation, reform. The plebeians did not destroy the republic. They transformed it. They replaced arbitrary rule with written law. They replaced elite monopoly with shared power, and in doing so, they built the constitutional foundations that would shape Western political systems for centuries. The Roman Republic was no longer a patrician state. It had become something far more powerful, a balanced republic that if you were a Roman citizen in 450 BC, what would matter more to you? Balance scale: the 12 tables, written laws protecting your rights, or, speaking head provocatio, the right to appeal a magistrate's decision. Tell me your answer in the comments, because the debate between law and liberty has never really ended.